Welcome back to School Families. I'm Mr. Balmer, and I'm excited to be teaching chemistry in our new STEAM class this year. This is my self portrait that I shared with students on the first day, and then they made their own self portraits. So, two things for my self portrait. I'm obviously a chemistry nerd. I see atoms. Hopefully, your students will too. I love NPR, and often on Saturday mornings, I'll be listening to the podcast Radio Lab. We've gotten a lot of grants over the years for our chemistry classroom here, from a portable fume hood, nuclear radiation meters, and so forth. And then more recently, we have an infrared spectrometer and a big plotter printer that we can use to print our science fair boards. So we've gotten a lot of grants through different organizations. One of the key ones, though, is the Warwick Ed Foundation. So I'm really thankful to them. Uh, there's a lot of money involved in equipment here that is beyond the scope of just our normal science budgets. But we know the true dollar figure is priceless for its impact on students. So I thank the Warwick Ed Foundation. I wanted to say a little bit about the new steel standards. Technically, we wouldn't need to introduce those until next year, but our science department worked real hard last year to update our science curriculum. The new steel standards wants us to introduce phenomena, or for students to see something, observe something, ask questions about it, and then think like a scientist. So we're going to try to beef up those skills in all of our science classes and also increase scientific literacy. We've always, as science teachers, done hands-on investigations, but we're going to try to increase the real-world applications to those, especially from an agricultural and an environmental standpoint. Hopefully, that'll allow our students to tackle global challenges and increase their level of curiosity. So these are the five-ish must-know takeaways to do well in my classes here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about HyperDocs and then our Google Classroom and Google website sites that I use for the classes, the online calendar in case you want to see what's going on, my grading philosophy, and then important links that students can use. So with HyperDocs, I have a digital version of every unit packet, and there's all sorts of links in it, from answer keys to videos to extra resources. This year in college prep, I am going back to a hard copy packet, but students always have access to this digital packet on Google Classroom. So for example, last night they filled out an example, and then they can click on my version of the example to see how well they did with the example and whatever they need to fix. Google Classroom is my way of giving students digital assignments and then receiving those for feedback. In college prep chemistry, we just did an article where students read the article, commented on it, and then replied back to several other students. So that was a really rich conversation that we had. This is an example of my Google website that I use for classes. So if I just want to use it as like an online textbook or an online resource, rather than posting all those up and clogging the feed on Google Classroom, on every front cover of every packet on Google Docs is a link to this, and every unit has its own page so students can access all those extra resources. Uh, Google Calendar is probably one of my favorite features. I incorporated this several years ago. So at the end of every lesson, I type up the lesson. If there were any changes from the plan to what we actually got done, I update that here. So students subscribe to this calendar at the beginning of the year. So if you ever want to see what they did, just have them log into Google Calendar, click the lesson. They're all numbered here, and then you can see what we did. If you'd ever like to get to the calendar and your student's not present, you can just go up to the staff directory, find my name, and then I have all my class calendars linked here. And then you would just pick the appropriate calendar, whether it's AP Chemistry, College Prep Chemistry, or STEAM. If you'd like to subscribe, that way you don't have to go through the website each and every time. You can just click the little plus button. That way it would show up on your Google Calendar so you can always see if maybe a student's having a hard time getting their homework done. You can just take a quick sneak peek and see, well, are there any assignments due tomorrow? I've worked hard over the last few years to come up with this choose your own grade philosophy. I want to take some of the pressure off of students and the fear associated with tests. So in addition to taking tests and quizzes in here, if a student's grade isn't where they'd like it or maybe where you would like it, they always have the option to do various assignments to get their grade to where they need it to be. So on a lab quiz, they could do a steaming out the lab coat wrinkles to get half credit back on those lab quizzes. At the end of every unit, they can take an optional vocab test It's a fairly easy assessment. So if they're having trouble with the math problem solving problems, they can basically give their grade a little bit of a boost by at least knowing the vocabulary. They can always do a chemical cartoon analysis every marking period. Students have worked together to come up with some really creative children's storybooks. And then after every test, as long as they're doing all their homework, they can do assessment corrections for half credit back. If you're interested, these links were all in the syllabus that parents signed. But if you're interested in seeing what the curriculum map looks like, or I have a week, year at a glance. Now, STEAM's a little bit of a new class this year, so I don't have it completely mapped out exactly where we're going to be every day. But in AP chemistry and college prep chemistry, give or take 1 or 2 days, I pretty much know where we have to be every day. And then obviously the daily calendar, that's that Google Calendar I use each and every day. Those links to help students choose their own grade are posted at the bottom of every web grade. So every time they log into web grades, they can see what their grade is. And then in the grading philosophy portion at the bottom, they always have access to those links. So at any point, if you're checking grades with your student and they're not quite where they want to be, just encourage them to do one of these extra assignments. With our new STEAM class this year, one of the big changes is we're not going to have an individual Warwick Science Fair, but we still are going to offer the community STEAM night. Last year it was a science showcase. This year it's going to have more of a STEAM focus to it. So that's going to be Thursday, March 6th. From 6 to 7:30 here at the high school. We have the North Museum Science Fair on Wednesday, March 12th. That's where parents need to get their kids or students can drive to Millersville to set up their board anytime from 3 to 8. If parents are okay with their kids carpooling, they could totally do that as well. If transportation's an issue, just let me know. And that way their board is all set up. We'll get on a bus or a van here close to 11 on the 13th of March, head over to Millersville for a day of judging. And then parents are welcome to come back in the evening for the awards ceremony. Last year, I was able to take a student to the International Science Fair, and I know that's on the goal list for some of our students. So if you want to just kind of earmark May 10th through 16th, the top 2 students from the North Museum get to go to the International Science Fair, and this year that's hosted in Columbus, Ohio. There's an optional Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Sciences science fair. That is usually on a Saturday in late February. I should have a date for that coming up pretty soon. And last thing I wanted to say about AP Chemistry, students last year scored probably the best I've ever had. Lots of fives, lots of fours, a couple threes. Everyone passed the exam. So there's something posted on Google Classroom about the $99 registration fee. They have to sign up on College Board plus fill out this guidance form. So you just want to make sure your student knows whether they're taking the AP exam, which I would highly encourage people to do that just because the scores have been so good lately. And AP chemistry exam is going to be on Tuesday, May 6th, 2025 at 8 a.m. All right, folks, have a great school year.